So we're here at Bookwalter Winery in Richland, Washington, and this is John Bookwalter, and he is the proprietor and winemaker and everything else under the sun to this winery. And John, if you could just tell us a little bit about who you guys are, what you're all about, for those that might have not heard of Bookwalter.
Oh boy, there's the $64 question. Who are we? Well, we're a winery that's been around for 30 years now. My father started the winery, so second generation, obviously, for me. I've been back 15 years, so I do make the wines. We make roughly 25,000 cases of wine a year. The headquarters, the mothership, is here in Richland, where we're in our barrel room here today. We have a restaurant here, full kind of entertainment scene as well, 7 nights a week. We have our tasting room in Woodinville, of course. We were kind of one of the early adopters for a tasting room in Woodinville. So we're a small family-held business, and it's just like many of the wineries in the state.
So you guys recently, within the last year or so, you started this restaurant. You initially started off the bistro service, just much more of an appetizer, some cheese platters, that kind of thing, but you kind of rocked it out into the full restaurant mode. Take us a little bit through about what your motivation was for ramping that up and actually wanting to do a little bit things different, maybe a little bit more upscale than what some of the other wineries are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing food for 10 years now, but initially it was all artisanal cheeses. And then we moved into charcuterie, and then we started doing flatbreads, and we kept seeing people demand more and more, wanted more food from us. So some of I guess the genesis for doing more of a full restaurant was really from our clients, and we were looking for more alternatives in terms of the eating experience here. So yeah, in the last year we've hired a couple chefs, and I think we're really starting to hit our groove. But I think the whole idea was, let's continue to create a destination in Eastern Washington that has great food. And I don't know if our area in particular has been synonymous with that. And so we're just doing our effort to make sure that there's a great local dining experience that's independent and uses local product. And so we are really trying to bridge that gap.
What were some of the challenges that you guys faced early on in terms of the available space for the kitchen and that kind of stuff in terms of ramping up?
We've never had enough space.
Yeah.
I mean, we've outgrown this winery. We outgrew it 10 years ago. On both sides, both the retail side and the production side. So yeah, space has been a real limiting factor. And also being in the county, we weren't in the city. We just got recently annexed. So there's been some kind of logistical challenges there as well. But yeah, space probably being the biggest issue.
And what style, if you had to coin a phrase, of food do you think you guys do here?
It's a good question. I mean, as you know, you had pork belly tacos. They were pretty cool, but you turn around and we have all the Snake River farm products. I'd say it's Northwest, but traditional with Northwest flair.
I haven't had a chance to look over the full dinner menu. What type of seafood products are you guys doing?
So right now, I think the only thing that's on there is the ahi tuna and then the crab cakes.
Okay.
And the crab cakes are to die for.
And is it kind of a challenge at all, making sure you get the fresh seafood product out here to Eastern Washington? And how do you guys go about doing that?
I mean, a lot of those are flash frozen the moment they're brought on the boat. So,
okay.
And we get them over here, and we do enough volume. The key for us is, if we do enough volume, you can keep everything quite fresh. So, I think the old thing, getting seafood away from your oceans is a bit of a fallacy given modern transportation.
Yeah, they usually just fly them in, right?
Yep,
every morning, and
yep.
You guys find some good fishmongers to go through and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's all facilities.
So what has been your direction for the last couple of years in terms of the way you have approached your winemaking, and how has that eventually played itself into what you guys might be doing with the food here?
Well, it's really all about ingredients, and that's really what winemaking is. And we joke, I work with a consultant winemaker on the south of France, Clark Grow, and he goes, we need to be lazy winemakers. And the way you can be lazy is if you have the right product coming in out of the vineyard for the wine. Obviously for food, it's the same concept. So if you bring in very high quality ingredients, it's easy to make great wine and, or for that matter, great food. So we literally have worked tirelessly in the vineyards, most notably at the Connery Vineyard with my father's managed for 25 years. And we've become draconian in some ways. I mean, I think I was telling you the story about the rosé. The reason we created a rosé program was to really make our high-end program, which is 8 clusters closest to the trunk. I mean, 8 clusters isn't even a ton per acre. I mean, very few people are going to those extremes to yield that little to build, these top quality wines. And those are some of the things that we're working on. But in terms of the red wines and what we do here, we're on gross lees now. We do not rack our wines. We stopped racking our wines in 2008. So we're on gross lees. We stir the lees for several months. We top weekly. So the wines age with very, very, very low SO2 levels. They are basically being made anaerobically. We've also changed over some of our oak programs, and we're moving aggressively towards larger barrels now.
Would you say that you guys are using a little bit more neutral oak now than you have in the past?
I'd say, yeah, absolutely. But you know, oak is a very important ingredient, and barrels provide texture too. It's not just about the aromatics and the flavors. It is a textural thing. And so I'm really liking the large barrel formats that we're moving towards. In fact, this spring, when Claude visits again, we're going to have a very kind of hardcore conversation about can we move our entire program to mostly large, if not all, large format barrels.
Well, one of the things you and I have talked about several times is a wine that's balanced overall, right? Irrespective of its alcohol content or whatever, like it should be about balance.
Yeah.
What is your philosophy in terms of making sure that your wines, vintage to vintage, are balanced? I mean, we've seen everything from the 2008 vintage up to 2010.
Yeah.
So we had some really nice hot years, some cold years. What are some of the things you guys are doing from a seller's perspective on addressing each one of these to make sure that the overall product in the end is balanced?
Yeah, Mother Nature's had a cruel sense of humor in the last few years, going from pillar to post. I mean, you look at 2009, one of the warmest years on record, and then we had the earliest frost on record, the 9th, 10th, and 11th of October, we were done. And then 10 and 11 being cold years. We thought 10 was really cold, and 11, of course, made 10 look tropical. So, and then 12 was an absolutely average year when you looked at accumulated heat units. So how do you keep consistency in a very changing? It's not easy, particularly when you're smaller volume like ourselves. But we do react in the vineyard. If you're having a cold year, you're probably removing more leaves. You're certainly bringing yields down, and you're going to be as patient as possible to get as much out of the vintage as you can. So you try to make up for some of it there. Here, it's again, do this what I call blocking and tackling of winemaking. Process the fruit very carefully, be very selective, watch your temperatures very closely. On the reds, we don't go above 78 degrees anymore on our red winemaking. So in a cooler year, maybe you're not going to extract, or maybe you try to stay on the skins a little longer and just extract a little more, assuming the flavors are good, of course. In a warm year, maybe it's a less extraction because the skins are thick and there's more tannin profile. So I think, you're reading the tea leaves all the time. I work the sorting table, as you know. I mean, I'm always out there looking at the fruit, and we're making kind of in-course corrections once it's even landed here. So we do our best to adapt to it in the vineyard and then also in the cellar in these very up and down years. But I think when you look at our program, our red wine program in particular, it's still about fruit. I mean, fruit should be the picture, and the frame is the oak and the other terroir. But I think fruit has got to be front and center, and I think we bring that forward with our style of the way we ferment, the way we grow, ferment, and of course age our wines.
People can find you online?
Absolutely. Bookwalterwines.com.
And you have a wine club? And
oh yeah, who doesn't have a wine club now?
But
ours is the book club.
I was going to say, but tell us about the book club. Like, what is?
So the book club it's our wine club, and as you know, our wines all have literary terms on them. You can be in the writer's version or editor's version or publisher's version of the book club. The cool thing about it is we actually have a points program that's associated with it. So not only do we automatically, ship the wine to you, you accumulate points as well that you can redeem throughout the course of the year. And it's not, I think the total requirement now is, the new one that we just moved to is a 1 case of wine per year total. That's all that you're committed to. And it happens over four different shipments. So it's not a huge overload of wine that's coming your way, and the price points are anywhere from 20 to up to the upper end is 80 right now. But it's really in that $30, $40.
Well, and your bookmark wine's even cheaper than 20, right?
Yeah, and that doesn't go out in the club. So some wines are and we do make wines exclusively for the club, like Antagonist and Antithesis, which is our Syrah based and our Cap Franc based wine. So those never go anywhere else.
Okay, go ahead. You gotta look at the camera though.
Okay, hold on.